When Melania Trump sued Jasmine Crockett for defamation, everyone stopped to watch. But nobody expected one piece of testimony to blow the whole thing wide open so fast. The secrets that came out were brutal, and people's careers were on the line. The Dallas courthouse was buzzing. Whispers turned into shouts when a witness told a truth that was so big, it turned a small legal fight into a huge national mess. Melania Trump versus Jasmine Crockett was more than just a case. It was like silence against fire, a polished image against a Democrat who says what she thinks. Melania's lawsuit came out of nowhere. She said Crockett's words were too harsh and did too much damage. It wasn't just gossip. It was a direct challenge because Crockett claimed there were some shady things going on. Cameras surrounded the courthouse in Texas, protesters yelled on both sides, and news channels loved the drama. This clash was like looking at America's divided state. Imagine it. Hot Texas weather outside and inside. The courtroom benches are full of reporters, lawyers, and regular folks wanting to see what happened. Melania walks in, wearing a sharp beige suit, looking controlled. Jasmine Crockett sits across from her, ready for a fight, her eyes intense and not backing down. The clerk says, Mrs. Trump versus Representative Crockett, and everyone pays attention. This wasn't about policy, it was personal. Crockett said some heated words, and Melania's team said those words were defamation, hinting at deals that could destroy a first lady's perfect image. Now that everything goes viral, the trial was a big deal, and everyone in America watched, waiting for the situation to explode. But then there's a huge surprise. A detail that everyone forgot ended up changing everything at the end of the trial. To get a feel for this mess, meet Jasmine Crockett. She's the Texas Congresswoman who didn't just climb the ladder, she took it by storm. Once a defense attorney for the underdog, the poor, and those tossed aside by the system, she took late night calls from desperate moms and fought prosecutors. In tough courtrooms, always sharp, she spoke her mind, and when she got to Congress, people thought she'd quiet down, but Crockett got louder. She fired back at enemies, questioned witnesses, and spoke for those who couldn't. Some saw her as a hero because she stood up for herself, while others thought she was a bit wild. So when she talked about Melania's part in Trump's time, it was classic Crockett, honest and brave. But Melania didn't just ignore it, she sued. This pulled her from her private life straight into a court fight. One person on TV wondered why Crockett, this new star, would get involved in such a chaotic mess. The answer? She's not scared, and it's a big threat to Melania's world of calm and distance. This was two sides of America clashing, simple beginnings versus worldwide fame. After filing, Crockett faced the cameras outside her Dallas office. If telling the truth gets me sued, she said, then so be it. I won't back down or hide. Her supporters loved it. Her critics mocked it, but everyone in America was watching. Crockett wasn't just defending herself, she was the fight. Her staff could tell she was struggling. She was up late with files, rubbing her head and saying, they want to destroy me. But she doesn't give in. Losing could really hurt her. Winning would prove that even the powerful can't silence her. But the biggest surprise was coming. A secret witness whose testimony would change everything. Stay tuned to find out who turned this trial on its head. Okay, so what pushed Melania to this point? For ages, she's been the quiet one next to her husband's craziness, not saying much, faking smiles, and keeping it classy. But Crockett's insults got to her when Crockett's team suggested shady money stuff that could ruin Melania's reputation forever. One legal expert on TV said, it's not about protecting Donald, it's about her. Her identity was being attacked inside. The White House, folks argued, should they let Crockett get attention, or would staying quiet make them look guilty? Melania decided, I'm not letting lies win. She was serious. There were big risks, such as giving depositions and people digging into her past, but she felt she could show her strength. People waved protect Melania signs in Texas and Florida. Conservative people loved that she was fighting back, but that can be risky. One strategist joked on TV, you just gave Crockett a loudspeaker. Now she'll be on TV all the time. Melania handled scandals before, staying calm, but lawsuits can get messy. Witnesses talk, reporters find stuff, and that's scary. She wasn't just protecting her image, she was risking it. In a Dallas courthouse, lawyers argued back and forth. Melania's lawyer yelled, this isn't politics, it's justice. Crockett's people shouted back, shutting down disagreement ruins democracy. The women stared at each other. Melania didn't show emotion, and Crockett looked daring. The court case started with no clear winner, Both sides were damaged. Secrets were hidden, and the country waited to see what would happen. But wait, a moment is coming that will change everything. Keep watching to see how 10 seconds changed everything. To understand what's going on, you gotta look at Crockett herself. I mean, forget the news and see that she's a tough woman built in Dallas courts, always standing up for people who couldn't speak for themselves. She'd answer calls late at night from families who were scared, and she never gave up, never feared judges. She was super honest, and that's what took her from local cases all the way to Washington. She made sure her words had impact, not trying to be fancy. And when she got to DC, people thought she calmed down, but she actually got louder in meetings, interviews everywhere, talking back and standing up for those no one cared about. That caused problems for the powerful and excited everyone else. So her joke about Melania wasn't a shock, but the lawsuit? Nobody saw that coming. Why go up against someone so tough? Crockett loved being threatened. It made her stronger, making her a problem for Melania and her perfect world. It's grit versus gold. Crockett struggled to even get through law school. In contrast, Melania is loaded, and she is perfect. After the lawsuit, Crockett said, "I'm glad this is about the truth," and her supporters went wild, while her haters rolled their eyes. The one thing that everyone agreed on about her is she's not afraid of anything. It's that lack of fear that made her dangerous and interesting, turning legal papers into a war zone. Can the person who tells the truth make it through this attack? Her people could see how hard she was working. Piles of papers rubbing her head, and she'd say, "If I give in, I'm done for." For her, this was about survival. If she lost, she'd be ruined. If she won, she'd be unstoppable. But the thing that changed everything was someone waiting in the wings. A witness whose story would be heard everywhere, not just in Dallas. You'll see who changed everything soon. Crockett made headlines with her fiery statement, but Melania's risky move was the bigger story. Her silence during her husband's chaotic times was a deliberate tactic, carefully chosen words, planned actions, and an air of mystery. But Crockett challenged her, with her team suggesting shady deals, which could damage Melania's reputation as someone who stayed clean in DC. No first lady had ever sued a congresswoman, so why now? Her advisors disagreed, some suggesting she played a martyr, others feeling it better to remain silent to avoid exhibiting weakness. However, Melania made it clear, "I won't accept lies." She was determined, knowing her move meant facing scrutiny and historical judgment. Her supporters rallied around her, and even critics begrudgingly admired her boldness. However, that confidence could easily backfire. As one TV commentator pointed out, you've just given her a bigger platform. As she got more airtime, Melania, who had weathered previous scandals, gambled that her team could manage Crockett. But courts are unpredictable. Judges make rulings, witnesses speak, and the press investigates. And the situation is potentially dangerous for Melania. By suing, Melania put her image on the line. Her lawyers painted Crockett's words as careless, blurring the line between truth and lies. The lead counsel demanded that Crockett be held responsible for potentially slandering the First Lady. Melania remained silent, cool, and gave instructions to her lawyers. Observers noted her icy focus amidst the storm. The case briefly grabbed attention. However, to win a defamation case, one needs real proof, factual evidence, stories, and context. Instead of defending herself, Crockett fought back with unexpected strategies. Pundits were busy debating if it was all about image or a simple distraction. A late-night comedian joked, "First Lady sues Congresswoman. Is it about defamation or just good TV?" Cynicism was everywhere, a sign showing Melania's real intent, a show of power and defiance. Yet symbols can break easily, and reporters in Dallas could already see history unfolding. This wasn't just about law, but about personalities and the shaping of truth. Melania risked a lot, and Crockett had gained a lot, but lawsuits can turn with a single surprising moment. So watch for the shock that changed everything. The Earl Cabell Federal Building was buzzing with the ghosts of trial. Past, but nothing like this. Satellite trucks blocked the streets, reporters shoved each other, and students camped out for seats. Inside, the AC battled the Texas heat. The air was thick with tension and the smell of coffee. Journalists clutched their cups, all eyes glued to the judge's stand. Melania sat there, perfect as always, in a sharp beige suit. Her hair was perfectly pinned, and she took slow, careful sips from her glass. Crockett leaned forward, flipping through her notes. An aide whispered something to her, and her face changed a little. Annoyance at the camera clicks, a hint of amusement at some joke, and a steely look when she glanced at Melania's table. Reporters whispered, no glances. The judge, with silver hair and a brisk manner, announced, Court is now in session. His routine couldn't hide the fact that this was no ordinary case. Melania's lawyer, Philip Ransom, stood and proclaimed, "Ladies and gentlemen, Crockett went too far." She attacked the First Lady's words, not her policy. These accusations are baseless and were broadcast to millions. This isn't politics, it's defamation. Crockett noticed murmurs ripple through the room as the attention shifted to Linda Garvey, who smirked. Garvey stepped forward and said, "This is about silencing dissent. My client spoke about influence and wanting transparency. The Trumps didn't like it, but that's not defamation. The truth shouldn't be silenced. My client was doing her job as a member of Congress. This sets a worried example." Crockett watched the jury, locked eyes with a reporter scribbling notes, and the tension in the room got even thicker. These arguments were important to the 12 people on the jury and the millions watching online. A Dallas reporter typed, "Trial of the decade." During recess, Crockett took a sip of water. A reporter shouted, "Any regrets?" "Regrets," she retorted. "Some people can't handle the truth." Her supporters chuckled, while Melania's side glared. Back in court, the tension ratcheted up. Witnesses, a consultant, played clips. Saying the words harmed Melania's reputation. Crockett argued that this was just the price of being in the spotlight. In the afternoon, the judge seemed to be thinking about more than just the law, maybe even free speech. He banged his gavel and yelled, "Control!" Cameras were banned, but sketch artists captured quick glimpses. One sketch showed Crockett pointing, with Melania's lips pressed tight. The day ended with everyone feeling the weight of what was happening. The battle lines were drawn and no one was backing down. An unseen fight was brewing and a turning point was coming. Crockett was getting ready to go on the attack, and Melania was starting to show cracks in her composure. Stick with us, because a single voice was about to shatter the silence in a way no one expected. Morning came and the routine kicked in. Reporters rushed around, security guards moved through the crowd, and aides, students, and Texans filled the benches. The judge nodded, and Ransom, looking sharp in his navy suit, spoke clearly. "Words matter. This isn't about politics. It's about the truth." Crockett made baseless accusations, broadcast to millions, and it hurt the First Lady. She's not just a politician, but a woman, a wife, and a mother. He smeared her, and he needs to be held responsible. The jurors looked serious, scribbling notes. Melania sat quietly, whispering something. Ransom called Simon Leary, a media analyst, who presented charts and clips showing the thousands of times the accusations were replayed, spreading the damage across the country. Ransom asked, "Did this affect people's perception?" Leary agreed. Yes, it was misleading. The jury took notes and Crockett tapped his pen, his eyes steely. Dana Mercer, a PR person, spoke about the damage done, lost opportunities, and the shadow of scandal. Ransom reminded the jury, "This isn't about policy, it's about someone being reckless." Melania looked up, showing both resolve and vulnerability. During cross-examination, Garvey was smooth. "Leary, these words spread, right? They were scrutinized, correct? They played a part in the cycle, didn't they?" Ransom objected, but the judge let it go. Leary admitted, "In a way, yes." The jurors exchanged glances and the reporters were all ears. Garvey asked Mercer, "It's true then? There's no defamation?" Mercer replied, "No, the court will decide that." Garvey smiled, and it seemed like the momentum was shifting. During lunch, reporters swarmed the lawyers with microphones asking, "Where do you draw the line?" Inside, Melania was talking quietly with her team, while Crockett was laughing, creating a stark contrast in mood. The day ended with words, representatives, and possible futures hanging in the balance, but the tide seemed to be turning towards Crockett. The defense didn't respond, choosing to flip the story, talking about free speech. Crockett sat with his arms crossed, full of energy. Garvey, without notes, argued, "This isn't about keeping quiet and respecting someone's dignity. It's about asking honest questions." Crockett spoke up with questions millions were asking, and now they want to punish him for speaking out. Crockett's confidence seemed to be affecting the jury. Garvey called Anthony Ward, a historian, who said criticism is to be expected and punishing it weakens democracy. Ransom questioned, "Does anyone get to say anything they want?" Ward replied, "No, but criticism is important. Silencing disagreement is a loss." Crockett whispered, "That's the line." Next, Angela Moreno, an organizer, testified. He spoke up for those who are afraid. If he's sued, will anyone else take a chance? Ransom objected, but the judge overruled. Finally, Crockett was sworn in on the Bible. Garvey asked, "Why did you make these comments?" Crockett replied, "To be honest, these things were happening and members of Congress were keeping quiet. I was bringing light to a question of power. Did it cause harm? No, the harm is questioning our country." Ransom challenged, "Your words and wait, didn't they? They were questionable, correct?" "There's no proof," Crockett stated quietly. "The proof is all around. Ask for the light right and you will see it. Jury seemed to be considering carefully. Ransom challenge. You have no proof? My job is to show right from wrong. People were whispering and the judge banged his gavel. Crockett stood tall, not trying to defend himself, but speaking freely. In his final words, Garvey told the jury, he wasn't reckless. He was representing the people. Punishing him would be punishing democracy. Reporters rushed out and the headlines read, Crockett fights back. Clips were replayed showing him as brave and reckless. Inside, Melania was calm, whispering about strength and history and contrast. Then a shock happened. An unexpected witness appeared, ready to change everything in 10 seconds. Don't miss what happens next. The third week hit a wall. Melania looked cornered. Crockett was all about speech and things were a mess. Word was Garvey was dragging his feet. Robert Klein. Nobody knew the name. Reporters went nuts. He was tall, looked to be in his 50s, and people were shocked. Turns out Klein was a Trump advisor, worked on infrastructure. Melania went stiff, whispered something, eyes narrowed. Crockett just smirked. Klein swore to tell all, stayed cool. Garvey asked, your role? Advisor, international stuff. Did the first lady know? Someone objected, said it wasn't important. Garvey shot back, it's about believability. Judge said he had the answer. Klein admitted, yeah, I was at closed meeting. I talked, pushed for deal. You could hear a pin drop. Garvey, were you involved in shielding her? Yep. Boom! 10 seconds, that changed everything. The press went wild, people gasped, jurors looked around. Melania was tight-lipped. Garvey let the silence hang. Klein didn't sweat. Judge told everyone to consider the importance of the testimony. It was huge. Melania's lips moved fast. Her lawyer scribbled notes like crazy. Crockett's arms were crossed. You couldn't read her. Her people looked thrilled. Recess was nuts. Reporters were on their phones replaying the moment. Outside, it was a madhouse. Bombshell. Melania's secret deals. Case blown open. Inside, Melania was frozen, shaking slightly. Crockett had turned the tables. Her moment of recklessness was now a reality, and it didn't end there. It blew up. Reactions poured in from everywhere. The effect of those few seconds rippled outwards. Klein saying yes was clipped, slowed down, trended worldwide. Chaos at the courthouse, everyone asking, did she lie? Protesters flooded the area. More police. Trump looked angry, Melania pale but composed. Ransom said, the oath is a fact. The public challenge is finished. Across the room, Crockett's team was buzzing, glued to their laptop. Garvey paced. Crockett smiled. I told you, get ready for the truth. In Dallas, people were watching TV saying, was she untouchable? Nobody is. In Washington, Republicans claimed Klein was just bitter. Democrats felt vindicated, saying intimidation failed. Online, Crockett stepping up went viral. Fearless. Melania stayed hidden, scandal brewing. Someone joked later. 9-second cameo, give him a medal, Netflix show. People roared. Pop culture was all over it. The jury knew the truth. Control slipped away. Klein's words stuck. Her supporters rallied. Stand by Melania. It drowned out Crockett's cheers. Crockett went back to her apartment that night. Her sister called. It's not a total win, but they pulled back the curtain. You stood your ground, and that matters. Melania stayed silent and released no statement. Access her options in setting the narrative. People talked in living rooms. What was proven? What's still in question? How do you balance speech and a good reputation? Words can hurt, heal, or define. Silence can be dangerous. Crockett got a win. Truth is worth speaking out about. Voices that try to shut it down are scary. Crockett walked out slowly, deliberately, the weight of her actions clear. Truth just shook the powerful, but wait for it. There's another storm coming. Deeper secrets that will shake Washington. Stay tuned for the plot twist that changes everything. The verdict wasn't the finish line. It lit a fuse. Melania's side wouldn't give up, so they appealed, saying the jury was biased and Klein was a liar planted by enemies. Then came the leaks to the tabloid. Turns out Crockett had some early slip-ups back in her legal career. Cases where she pushed things too far. Anonymous tips hit the news, turning her win into a high-wire act. Back in the day, Crockett wasn't living the high life. She was in Dallas grinding through college, waitressing and dreaming of being a lawyer. Her first big case? Defending a dad wrongly accused after a raid, fighting hard in cheap motels. She won but made an enemy, a prosecutor who held a grudge and later sent info to Melania's people, trying to paint Crockett as reckless. Crockett fought back and friends testified about her dedication. The appeals were coming and the media was all over it. Late night shows joked about both women, but there was a divide. Conservatives defended Melania's honor while liberals cheered Crockett's fighting spirit. Then Trump posted on Truth Social, calling the verdict a joke and hinting at moves if he got re-elected. But the real shocker was a leaked tape from a White House party months later, which seemed to connect Melania to deals she swore she had no part in. All hell broke loose. Protests popped up everywhere, from New York to LA, with people demanding answers. Crockett ended up in congressional hearings, not as a criminal, but as a public servant getting grilled. She even hinted at some shady stuff related to Trump, leaving people shocked. Melania's team tried to soften her image by leaking stories about her charity work, women's shelters in Eastern Europe, but her approval ratings kept dropping, while Crockett became super among young voters. The appeal hearing in DC felt like a rematch, with tension you could cut with a knife. A former Melania aide spilled some dirt, saying Melania was furious about Crockett's success, and the clips went viral. Crockett fired back with emails proving Klein's claims and suggesting Melania was involved in deals she denied. Everyone waited, hoping for the judge's ruling. Then came a surprise settlement offer, sealing the records and making both sides say they'd been civil. Leaks showed that Melania dropped the appeal if Crockett retracted. It looked like a tie, but each side wanted to make it sound like a win, while the public cried cover up. But wait, because a forgotten recording is about to surface, it will change everything about the scandal in ways no one could predict. This whole thing totally changed Capitol Hill. Crockett, who was becoming a big deal for the Democrats, got offered spots on committees and help with raising money. The Republicans, though, were all over the place. Some tried to stay away from Melania, while others started looking into Crockett's money and if she broke any rules, but nothing ever came of it. With the midterm elections coming up, the fight became a big part of the campaigns. Ads went after Crockett, calling her someone who causes trouble, and painted Melania as out of touch. Seats changed parties when no one expected it. Lobbyists got nervous because Crockett was watching them closely. It wasn't easy on anyone personally. Melania told a friend that all the attention was hard on Barron and made family dinners stressful. Crockett told her sister she was scared of losing her seat, but both of them got tougher because of it. The settlement wasn't really giving up, but more like a plan, but that didn't stop wild theories from spreading, helped by people leaking stuff. Crockett got even more famous and got a book deal. Melania's reputation took a hit, but she got through it. The whole thing left a lasting impression, showing that the truth doesn't always win, but it always leaves its mark. If you are into this story, subscribe to get more stories about what goes on behind the scenes in politics. The next part of this story in Washington is about to be revealed, and you won't believe how that tape from the gala connects to secrets that Klein barely mentioned. It's gonna change everything big time. You gotta see how it ends.